So how many people walk into the Lamborghini dealership pretending to be rich, pretending to be a buyer? And what are the tells?
Yes, absolutely. People come in with their fake watches and, overly designer clothes, and that they're trying to pretend that they can buy something and they can't. They're just trying to get a test drive or something like that. And I can relate to that because I did that many times as a high schooler, trying to go out and test drive interesting cars with some success. But you can't let those people waste your time when you actually have a job to do. And it really doesn't take long in the way that you should sell a car to ask the right questions that they would just not have even thought about, like how they're actually going to use the car, how it relates to other goals that they have, why they want it and what they believe it is versus what you have to explain it actually is, and things like that. And so if they're just itching to get in the car immediately, let's go, then you know that they weren't going to buy it anyway. But if you can actually have a conversation with someone and they've got a reasonable approach to the idea of purchasing this car, in most cases you can end up with, knowing really, really quickly how hard it's going to be for them to do so. Now, the ones that are stretching are the best kinds of customers. The ones that can easily write the check are the hardest to motivate to actually do so. But somebody who knows, like, look, I may be hard to get financed because of this, and this, and they're very forthcoming about that, then those times, you do stand a really, really good chance of getting this person into a car because you probably have more financing resources at your disposal than they may know about or things like that. And so it's really just about asking a lot of questions and making sure that you're framing them in a very positive way and where their answers will become the reasons that they should want to purchase the car.
How often is it that someone comes in and they're just making a terrible financial decision, that this person can technically qualify, but it's not smart whatsoever? Is that common? And has there ever been a situation where you've just said, hey man, we could get you this car, but you probably shouldn't do this?
Well, as you first framed that question, I was going to say, well, in 2013, we got a McLaren franchise. And so that early in McLaren's current existence, they were miserably unreliable cars. And so they would all break, always. The failure rate of these cars in the first week of ownership, where they may have come back in on a tow truck or at least had some very meaningful fault, was 100%. And so when you would sell them, in most cases, they were pretty profitable deals because there was a lot of enthusiasm and excitement for the cars. So you made good money, but you knew this was going to become a problem. Always. And so in that regard, there were times where people were buying cars that you knew were troublesome, and you would at least try to help them to understand that. I know that you love Lotuses, but the best way to sell someone a lease is to try to talk them out of it. And, you'll tell them, hey, they're not super comfortable and they're not easy to get into, especially if you or park next to somebody like, oh yeah, I love that. It's a nice car. It's just remove everything. And then, they're not that expensive in terms of parts, but they do go through tires and brakes really fast. Oh yeah, for handling, that's awesome. I love that. I'm gonna do it myself and all this stuff. And it is a Honda motor, but you want to make sure that it's maintainable, or Toyota and stuff. And they're like, oh yeah, that's so cool. It's gonna be more reliable. It's gonna go 100,000 miles. I'm gonna drive it all the time. But if you hurt the clamshell, it's really expensive, so just make sure that you've got good insurance and just be careful, don't bump into stuff. Oh yeah, I love that. It's so light. And they're just talking themselves into it over and over and over again, and it's they always buy them. No one can go look at a Lotus and not buy it. Unless it breaks while they're driving it or catches on fire, which happens. But in terms of a financial decision where somebody is really in a rough spot, again, most of the time, those people are stretching so hard to be able to buy these cars, and they know, and they're all well aware, I can't sell this car because I have so much negative equity that I'm rolling from the next one. I had this guy, nicest guy in the world, just had kind of a normal job, made low six figures and had owned an Aston Martin DB9 for a really long time. And we did a lot of really long-term car financing, these 12-year, 15-year loans. And, if the car doesn't go down in value, that can be a great way to own it. And so he owed effectively $100,000 on a $50,000 car because Astons depreciate like crazy. And he didn't want to put much money down. And so he just wanted to have a newer car. And that's a hard thing to do because effectively, if you're trading a $50,000 car for a $150,000 car, you can adjust the numbers up. So you get 100 for your trade and you pay 200 for the new car. And so you're still paying the same $100,000 delta. The bank doesn't know that the numbers were different. But that's too much to hide. Like hiding 20,000, maybe 30,000, maybe hiding 50 grand takes some doing. And we tried so many deals, and I ended up selling him an Aston Martin Virage when we got an incentive on those back in 2012. And he was the happiest guy in the world. Now he owed at that point at least 100 more than that car was going to be worth immediately, but he loved it, and that was his thing, and he was going to probably pay it for 5, 6, 7 years, and he was fine with it.
So when you see people driving like really expensive exotic cars, what percentage of those people have them financed and can barely afford them?
It's going to vary a little bit by market and by demographic, but I would say 75% are financed. Certainly in my sales experience, 75%.
When you say 75 financed, is that because that's the smart move to make because they got a low interest rate and it makes more sense to arbitrage the money, or is that because they just can't afford it?
No, because they cannot afford it.
So a lot of people think that if you drive a supercar, generally speaking, you're kind of loaded. Like I feel like especially a lot of, I could be wrong here, but like girls, they'll see a guy driving a nice car, they're like, ooh, he's got money. But you'd say that's generally not the greatest
If
belief.
you're driving a supercar that's less than 5 years old, you should not assume that person has a lot of money. That is
really?
Yeah. If they're driving, an iconic vintage or significant car, something that's 10, 20, 30, 40 years old, for sure, there's a really good chance because those are harder to finance. But if they've got a brand new Huracan, no.
Interesting.
Didn't the Dave Ramsey millionaire study show that most millionaires drive Toyotas?
Yeah, Toyotas, Hondas, and the F-150 pickup trucks.
Yeah, but that data is massively skewed because most millionaires are retired.
Fair.
So most millionaires are 60 plus years old. If you ask what millionaires under the age of 40 drive, it would be BMWs, Mercedes, Audis. I mean,
those three brands.
Believe it or not, the Tesla Model Y and Model 3 were the most common in Reddit Fat Fire. But that skews to a lot of California, Vancouver.
Yeah, right.
Makes sense.
But yeah, that was the most common.
What would you say are some trends that you've noticed amongst high net worth individuals buying exotic cars?
Well, it's a very indulgent thing, right? And so generally speaking, the Venn diagram of people that own exotic cars and good people don't intersect all that much. And so it was a little bit of a difficult thing because obviously I loved the cars for my reasons, some of which are obviously the vanity and status of it, but much more significantly, the experience of driving it, the ways that they build performance, the noise, the beauty, the history, everything that they represent. I mean, I love to be able to get in a car, get it good enough to probably make it where I wanted to go and drive the wheels off of it. And so, before they started to make SUVs, I'd probably put more miles on Lamborghinis than just about anybody in the country. And because I love that. I love to get in one, drive to Miami, drive it across the country. To me, that is the best form of ownership. You may not be going 200 miles an hour, but you're just experiencing it in that way. Now, most people obviously aren't doing that. They're trying to minimize their costs. They're trying to, take advantage of whatever. And they really are trying to go show off in them. And it can be a rather undesirable reflection of who a person is. And I try to be conscious of that, especially as I've got a bunch of them. And I make sure that it's very clear, look, they're all broken. They're all heavily financed. It's a hard, and they're the result of me doing this professionally for a long time. And yes, you can sit in it. And yes, you can take it for a ride. I used to let people borrow them, but I had to stop because they're all so broken that they would all break down. So I went like 18 months where every single time I let somebody drive something, it broke in like a rather meaningful way. And it's not that I hold them responsible for it. It's just awkward and inconvenient. And so I kind of just had to say, look, for a while at least, I have to not do this. And so I don't let them drive them, but if we can take them somewhere, do something, by all means. And I think having the right attitude about the cars is really what I learned was both necessary and the right way to go. And, if you try to treat these things as, your treasure and they cannot ever be imperfect, it's just, you get so uptight and so uncomfortable.
You're talking to me right now?
Oh, I have learned a bit we got to get you out of that mindset, man. You got to just get some rock chips. Like I I've only owned one cosmetically perfect car because I had one repainted. It was in terrible shape. It was a Lamborghini Murcielago, and I had it painted my favorite color, which is Verde Draco on the car. It's kind of a drab green, and you can show a picture of it. But there were no cars built for the U.S. in that color, and so I couldn't just go buy one, and I never get to buy based on color. So the cheap cars are always black. And so they either get wrapped like this Gallardo, or they stay black because they look so pretty, but they get dirty fast. And so, I try to make people understand that, the more you can drive them, they're great. And so, like, I don't have a clear bra on the Bugatti. I can't wait till it's covered in rock chips and everybody sees it and immediately knows how much I've driven it.
Why wouldn't you put a clear bra on it? You're going to spend $5,000 doing that, on the front part of the car, maybe some of the sides. Why not just do that? It seems like $5,000 would be better than rock chips.
Well, first of all, there's already some paint work on the car. Okay. And so it could stand to be, repainted parts of it anyway.
Yeah.
But significantly, like, if you ever go to Monterey Car Week, there's a lot of amazing cars there. But my favorite one is a guy from Boston that drives his Enzo there every year. It's got 90,000 miles on it. The windshield's got a crack across it. The whole front's been just sandblasted off from all the rock chips. And it's my favorite car because it's like, this dude just loves using it. And so I did clear bra after I repainted the car because it was truly perfect, and much more significantly because I could never match the paint. It was custom mixed to match this paint code. And, so I didn't want to have to deal with ever doing that, and that's why I clear brawed every square inch of the car. But if I were to do it again, I wouldn't, because I would love it if it had its last 30,000 miles of rock chips on it.
It is cool to look at a car like this and see that it's been used, and see that, the person is actually taking it out on the road, see the paint chips and stuff like that.
Yeah, I love a perfect car, but I love them, worn in a bit more.